land grant institution down south, U of A. He got himself a Bachelor of Science in Public Administration. But since then, and he met his wife down there and she got her degree. But since then, he's gone on to Harvard and USC for additional coursework. And so he's constantly involved in things. He's respected for being able to work with multi-agencies, just an individual all the way around that helps hold us together in terms of law enforcement. And David, when you're done, maybe you can mention something about the posse, just a little bit about the posse.
Oh, I absolutely will. Tom, thank you.
It's all yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I've always had a lot of respect for your group and all the humanitarian services that you do locally and nationally and universally. And thank you for everything you do. I also want to give a shout out to Ken Kost. Ken, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Well, I'll tell you, you're lucky to have, Mesa's lucky to have a great chief and Ken Kost. Worked with them over the years, DPS, and this is, I don't have to tell you, this is very difficult times for law enforcement nationally, and having to, struggling to deal with the tough issues we have to deal with and balance that with the community and the, you know, with all the things going on, it's a difficult time for law enforcement. And I tell you, the city of Mesa is in good hands with Ken. Ken, thank you for showing up here also to listen to me. But
Whoop.
Judicial Act of Congress in 1789. Our primary duties are to arrest fugitives locally, state, federal, and internationally. We also manage the Witness Protection Program, which is fascinating. It was actually where I first met Tom, was when he got into the program. Tom, I'm just joking, but it's an absolutely fascinating program. And Arizona is a big place for the Witness Protection Program because of all the people coming and going all the time. Also, we're also responsible for protecting the judiciary, the federal court system. We also manage all the pretrial federal prisoners that are in custody. And Arizona is one of the busiest districts in the country for that, of the 94 districts in the United States. As of this morning, I have about 5,000 prisoners in custody waiting trial. And then you throw in the COVID issues, the management of those 4,000 prisoners is quite a task. We also have manage, it's known as Con Air, probably not the best name, but we do have our own fleet of planes that transport prisoners here and fro, getting prisoners to prison, to court, and those kinds of things. As Tom mentioned, the head of the office of the district in Arizona is one district. Some states have several districts. Arizona is one federal district. I was originally appointed by President Bush, George W. Bush, in 2001. You have to go through Senate confirmation and the whole rigmarole. I was reappointed by President Obama, and then also reappointed by President Trump. So I've been blessed to have been the marshal for 19 years, and usually you last 7 or 8 years as a presidential appointee, but I've been very lucky to hold that post for 19 years now. Prior to that, I was a state trooper, started in Tucson, where I finished school, working graveyard, the best university in the country, right, Tom?
Bear down.
Bear down, exactly. And I started off as a trooper for a couple of years. I went to narcotics. I met my lovely wife down at the U of A when she was in law school down there. We came up to Phoenix. We've kind of been here ever since. And prior to being appointed marshal, I ran the criminal investigation section at DPS. We had about 400 detectives doing all kinds of things. And right now, what I've been doing probably the last 2 months, and in addition to all these things that we do, is dealing. The Attorney General, the AG Barr, has has really pressed upon the United States Marshal Service to assist in a lot of these communities are having violent protests. Portland, and then we're going to be sending a bunch of other people to, and have sent other people to other hot spots around the country to deal with these violent protests. I just got back from Portland, and I tell you, it's unbelievable what's going on there. These activists really are trying to burn down the federal courthouse, the Hatfield courthouse in downtown Portland. And about and this has been going on for almost 80 days now, consistently. Hundreds of protesters, violent protesters. We have no issues with protesters. It's when they step over the line that's the issue. They start milling around about 9 o'clock in a park across the courthouse, and then it's continuous bombardment with everything, every kind of tool, weapon, fire, bags full of paint, urine, explosives, wrist rockets, shooting BBs at the federal officers out there. And this goes till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then starts over again the next day. And our goal is to protect the courthouse. And unfortunately, when you deal with violent protesters and the issues that go with that, when you have to, disperse gas, and the other less than lethal weapons that we use to keep people away from the courthouse, you get the fall back from that, and we understand that. And we'll be deploying, I'm sure, well, I know in the Wisconsin area here the next day or two, in Chicago, so this is just taking a lot of our time and our resources, where we could be doing other more constructive things than dealing with these violent protests. And we continue. We know that they're going to go till at least the election day of November 3rd, and we'll see what happens after that. But it's gotten to a point where our agency and all the other federal agencies that are involved in this can, the manpower that it takes and the cost of doing this thing is just appalling. That we have to, and we're doing those kinds of things on a daily basis, and we'll be doing this for months. And had deputy marshals that have been injured. One of the things that these violent protesters will do is they'll shine ultraviolet lights, these green ultraviolet lights, in the officer's eyes. And we've had 3 that have had eye damage from that, in addition to all the other projectiles that they're taking in. And we've had officers that go on rotation for 2 weeks at a time. They come back, and we rotate them back in and out. And we're doing all this. On my district alone in Arizona, have 18 deputy marshals up there, and they just keep and in other locations. So as we rotate these officers in and out, in addition to doing your other duties. I mentioned COVID earlier. This has had a significant impact on the court system. It has really just basically plugged it up. And I know this is on all the local court system, but in the federal court system, they're not doing grand juries. They're not doing trials, both criminal and civil trials. We have pods down at our holding facility. The majority of the federal prisoners are held in a private prison in Florence by a company called CoreCivic. And I'm often asked, why do you use private prisons for federal prisoners? Well, the reason is simple. I have no place else to put 4,000 or 5,000 prisoners. The sheriff's departments can't help me because they don't have the space. Plus, the cost would be double than it is now. For example, we pay your tax dollars about $63 a day to hold a federal prisoner. If I held them at Pima County Jail, with the sheriff's department there, or Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, the first day is like $250 a day. And after that, it drops down to like $100, $150 a day. And then there's other issues, medical issues that you have to deal with that many prisoners. So it's just, and we're holding court at the facility in Florence through VTC, and initial appearances are held through VTC to Phoenix and Tucson. the system just keeps growing and growing and growing. But on the front end of court, it's just plugged up. When this thing is got hopefully over, I think we're going to deal with COVID in one form or another for a long period of time. When those gates do open, we're just cringing what's going to happen with the court systems and how the judges are going to deal with jury trials, and jurors have there are issues with getting jury pools to come down to our courts because they're obviously concerned about COVID. But a lot of significant issues when it comes to the prisoners and all these other things that are going on, and we're really concerned about sustaining that for a very long period of time, because a police officer can only be under attack for so long and away from home for weeks and months at a time, and and then also manage the COVID issue with our staff, with our prisoners. Let me give you an example that will cause a problem. If let's say we have 250 prisoners in a pod. If one of them is test positive, we have to put all those 250 prisoners in quarantine for 2 weeks. So that shuts down those people going to court. It just never ends with these issues. I mentioned our fugitive operations. We arrest about 6,000 fugitives a year just in Arizona, federal, assisting state and local agencies. And also I have 8 deputy U.S. Marshals that work in the Republic of Mexico. We have thousands of fugitives that are wanted in the U.S. that flee to Mexico. So we're working down there pulling prisoners out every day. And it's interesting working in Mexico because the cartel issues there and the influence they have on government officials. If we're looking for somebody wanted for murder or rape or child abuse, we can get those individuals out pretty quickly. But if the fugitives we're looking for are major drug smugglers or connected to the cartels, we don't even bring that up with our counterparts there because it'll put them in a bad situation, probably get them killed for working with us. And so we find other ways to try to get to that individual. Maybe sometimes we have to wait them out because of the delicate situation in working in Mexico, where quite frankly, the corruption issues are pretty high. And it's interesting, if you're appointed, set at the head of the state police for the state of Sonora, for example, or any high-ranking other police officer, the cartels will go to them and threaten them with murder and their families if they don't cooperate. So they put these officers down there in a very, very difficult situation. If they don't cooperate with them, and if they cooperate with us, the federal government, they or their families will be killed. So the sensitivities there are very, very difficult. And we have marshals, I have deputy marshals who fly all over the world looking for fugitives that we have, arrangements with to bring fugitives out of those countries. And we'll track these individuals in a variety of ways. And in some countries, a lot of fugitives will go to countries where we don't have extradition treaties. So we just wait those individuals out because they'll eventually, they'll step out of that country for some reason. And then at that point, gives us an opportunity. I've been speaking a lot for about 10 minutes, or I can go all day, but at this point, I don't know if there's any questions or comments so far. No, okay. Also, other major issues with your U.S. Marshal Service. We're probably the smallest. We're part of the Department of Justice with FBI, DEA, ATF, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Bureau of Prisons. And we're a small agency of about 4,000 deputy U.S. Marshals. And I think the citizens get a good bang for their buck for our agencies, because we keep a pretty low profile. you've probably heard about U.S. Marshals. You might have heard of Wyatt Earp, but a lot of people, and I'm trying to change that, do not know what the United States Marshal Service does on a daily basis. And I'm very proud of the men and women who work for our agency. And also, we're on a big recruiting drive at all times. And if you know a great young man or woman that you think would be a great deputy U.S. Marshal, please refer them to us. We're always looking for people. I'll be honest with you, we need women. Desperately need women in law enforcement, especially in the Marshal Service and all of them. If you have language capabilities, background in IT, background in financial issues, those are the type of people that we're really seeking to bring to our organization to serve now and 20, 25, 30 years down the road. I think we have a pretty good reputation of working with the Mesa PD. We have a fugitive task force that works with Ken Cost and his agency based in his office there, one of his off-site facility there. And what most citizens don't hear are the violent criminals that are taken off the street every single day that if left on the street would commit more crimes. When we arrest a fugitive, when we interview them, we ask them, how do you survive? Where do you get your money to survive? You know what the answer is. Well, we do 3 burglaries a day. We rob people at ATMs. We break into cars to steal whatever we can in a car, cameras, computers, anything they can sell. So getting these fugitives off the street is critical for the safety of any community. In Mesa with Chief Ken Cost, great officers there working with officers from the Marshal Service and Tempe PD and Chandler and Gilbert. We all work very closely together because those fugitives will go all in those areas to commit these terrible crimes so they can survive on a daily basis. And as I mentioned, the everyday citizen does not, I don't think they appreciate, maybe they do appreciate it, I hope they do, or understand the violent fugitives and criminals that are taken off the street so they don't prey on innocent citizens that are just going about their daily business. And as we continue to move forward, now I have Tom mentioned the U.S. Marshal Service Posse, and Tom's a member of. They're a group of outstanding, fine men and women who serve the community, assist us with the heritage of the Marshal Service. They give back to schools and agencies and company or groups that help officers who've been injured and killed in the line of duty. And they work very hard and diligent to support law enforcement. And ladies and gentlemen, at a time like this, is really important that we have, the respect of all of you and the support of all of you. Everything that's going on, we get frustrated in law enforcement because we know that there's like a silent majority out there that supports law enforcement. And instead of, it seems like every day in the newspaper, there's some video or iPhone video of some police officer doing something that they shouldn't have done, or the video is misinterpreted. But it's citizens like you that can help spread the word and let the community, let the people know that they do support law enforcement. And we have our bad apples. There's no question about that. I was having a discussion with my wife a while back, and she's an attorney here in Phoenix, and she saw a video that we've all seen where a police officer did something maybe he or she shouldn't have, and she said, "Look at that. Why do you cops do this kind of things?" And I think she should know better. But I said, Nancy, my wife, when let's say an attorney does something illegal or does something silly, you don't paint all attorneys with the same brush. Same with doctors. She represents a lot of doctors at Banner Health. And if a doctor makes a mistake and God forbid someone dies because of their mistake, you don't paint all doctors that way. It seems that when a police officer makes a mistake, all of us get painted with that same brush, which isn't fair. We understand that, but we think that it's not fair. So anyways, I know I'm kind of rambling on here, and I just like to throw it out to all of you for any comments, feedback, or questions you might have regarding what I have mentioned already.
Dave, you're a senior marshal in terms of your years of service. And what about the new marshals coming in? I mean, is this a turnover that's going to slow things down?
I'm sorry, Tom. What was that?
Well, we're going to see a turnover of marshals here with the election coming up. And do you think that's going to impact the marshal service much?
Well, you know, it's interesting because when I transitioned from President Bush to President Obama, our day-to-day, you know, activities didn't change one bit. You know, in the immigration issues, I didn't notice any kind of transition or any kind of policy changes or things like that, especially with the Marshal Service. But it seems that, you know, things just continue on from what the duties that we have to do is to make America safe. But I did not, in the 3 administrations I have worked with, you know, but Bush, Obama, and Trump, there was no change whatsoever in those 3 administrations of what we do out on the street.
Now, you're involved in to get the really difficult cases and stuff like that. So when you work with Mesa or local law enforcement agencies, you know, you guys are calling the shots for the most part.
Well, no, it's a team effort, and like when we're in Mesa, Ken has some outstanding detectives, street cops, and they know the area better than we do. In most cases, we go with their lead. They know the alleys. They know who they can talk to. So we just put all our resources together and really rely, like say in Mesa, with Ken's people who are top notch, and I'd put them up with any police officers in the country for what they do, keeping a pulse on their community. They know who needs to be taken off the streets. They know who most likely where they're going to go. So it's a group effort working together. Ken, I'll throw that out to you if you have anything to add.
I can't say enough about the working relationship, and the key being relationship with Marshal Gonzales and his team. I mean, it dates back for me all the way back to 2007, right? Marshal Gonzales and Abe, when we went from basically not having any combined effort or very little combined effort to 12 years later, arguably one of the best teams I would put up in the country against any task force around the country. And it's really a collaboration. A violent crime occurs here in Mesa, and you have the power and resources and knowledge of the Marshal Service combining with multiple agencies in the East Valley, immediately coming out for a violent crime. And oftentimes those violent crimes are solved within a 24-hour period with the people in custody, and that's because of that partnership and resources, and that is not usual
No.
around the country. So
yeah, you're absolutely right, Ken. I've been all over the country working with law enforcement, and in Arizona we are so lucky that the local, county, federal, tribal agencies all work very closely together. We share resources, we share information and intelligence. I tell you, you go to some other states back east, whatever. The agencies don't work together. They don't trust each other, which is not good for the communities. And in Arizona, that is definitely not the case. And it's the leaders that put that together, and people like Chief Cost, and I'm a firm believer in that, coming from state and local law enforcement, that we do what we have to do. We put our egos aside, and we don't care who takes the credit. We just want to get these people that need to be off the streets off the streets.
Do you think the fence is a help or a detriment to you
The fence,
in your work? The fence, yeah.
the wall, the border wall.
The wall,
Yeah,
the
now,
fence. What do you want to
That's an interesting question. I think the wall in areas that have a lot of in larger communities on the border and do make a difference. Yeah, people can go around it; they can go under. I get that, but also the Border Patrol can prepare for that. They know that. Let's say if you have a wall, say you go down on Nogales, and I've been there a million times. The wall will go, east and west a mile or two and stops. But what it does is it changes the directions of the smugglers so that the federal law enforcement there can prepare for that. Now, the interesting thing about our borders is not only do the cartels control those borders, they use it for human smuggling, for drug smuggling, and going south, they use those same routes for taking money back and guns, and it's all controlled by, in this case, the Sinaloan cartel. Now, you haven't heard much about a lot of violence on the Arizona border with the cartels, and what does that tell you? It tells you that that cartel is very strong. There's not infighting going on with other cartel members because they have it so locked down. But to answer the question about the wall, I personally don't think it's probably feasible to go the entire 1,900 miles from California to Texas to build one because not only of the cost, but I think if you used updated technology, cameras, and other things, and you share information, it's probably might be a better way to go through that because I don't think you can build a 1,900 mile.
my point?
This is Joe. This is Joe Wilson. Question for you, David. Over your tenure with the agency, have you seen a change in the type of crimes that are prevalent? And if so, what's driving that? And what do we need to do as a society to help in those efforts?
Yeah, the one thing that I've seen that other than you're always going to have violent crime and property crimes and things like that, but the most calls that we get on, and probably Ken can also agree, is it's the cyber crime. With everybody with their iPhones and everything's done on phone now. Every transaction, and there are literally thousands of people a day. Their identity is stolen. They're defrauded in some way, getting your bank information, and there's probably all of us at one point or another have had their identity stolen. I remember last year, I got a letter from the IRS saying, "Listen, your income tax that you submitted, we're reviewing it because of I can't say that word. Discrepancies." How's that? I went to U of A, so and I thought, well, this is funny because I hadn't filed my income tax yet. So it turns out some prisoner in a prison got my name and social security number, and they filed income tax under my name, my wife's name, and luckily the IRS it triggered it. So, but still causing me problems today. But it's the issues having to do with your identity and the con artists that are out there every single day. You probably get phone calls all the time when they want your IDs, and so I think that that is probably one of the biggest issues that law enforcement is dealing with. And what's frustrating is the prosecution of those are very, very limited because there are so many of these cases. The prosecutors and the police officers, unless it's involving a lot of money, it's almost impossible to get to those. Ken, what do you think? Do you have those issues there? I'm sure.
Well, yeah, we are, and it's just a matter of getting the resources to deal with it because it's all about technology, and I think they seem to be a little bit of a step ahead of what we have. So some of the things you're looking for in the future are just like Marshal Gonzales talked about before, is hiring folks that have background, computer science backgrounds, and the ability to decipher code and to deal with the cybercrime. And the best thing we can ask for from the public is just to be very careful about, I mean, everything from the phishing scams that you get on email to your phones, to the spam calls, to anything trying to get you. And they are brilliant, and they do an amazing job of making everything look real, look like a legitimate website. And the next thing you know, they're tied into your bank accounts, and they have everything they need, and they can succeed for a little while. So I think the best thing is just to be ultra sensitive with your information.
Yes.
David, how's the pandemic? Is that going to set the courts that far behind? In other words, in terms of the cases that are building up?
Absolutely. The pandemic has had a staggering effect, as I mentioned earlier, on our court system, and not just the federal system. The counties, the superior courts, and when this, like I said, when this floodgates opens up, it's just tremendous. I know the federal government hasn't done grand juries. That's where you initially start. The law enforcement comes in. They want to indict somebody for all kinds of crimes, very serious, even from fraud to aggravated assault, you name it. And they haven't even done grand juries in months and months and months. They haven't had any criminal or civil trials in months and months. And then if you go to a courthouse, let's say you go to the Santa Fe O'Connor courthouse, where my main office is here, or I also have an office in Tucson at the DeConcini courthouse. The court staff is minimal, absolutely minimal. The judges will come in for a couple hours, or work their cases, whatever they need to do from home, but there's really nothing going on at the federal courthouses. And then another major problem we have, we're right across the street from the Tucson PD, and there's appears to be demonstrations. They were going on every day for a long period of time. Now, maybe one or two a week. I know they've had them in Mesa and other communities. And when they're down there, they shut down the courts to protect the judges and the employees that work there. So these protests are having a major effect. That they come down there because you can't risk these individuals getting hurt, and you're getting caught up with these protests. So and then also with COVID, as I mentioned, we have people that who get a jury summons, and they're concerned about going down and in a room. Some of you that might have been called jury service. You have 50, 60 people in a room, and they can't do that anymore. They're also struggling. As trials do come up in the next, say, 6 months, how do you separate 12 jurors in a courtroom to keep them safe from the COVID-19? It's very difficult. And we've had to spend a fortune on PPE equipment. I've had to purchase these devices that spray, they're called the Santa Sport machines that spray this liquid, this mist to kill all these germs, both in courtrooms or in our offices and the cell blocks and those kinds of things. So those are other side issues that take away. Plus, when you hear about these defund the police things that are going on around the country, we've seen it a little bit here in Arizona, and you see them in other major cities where the New York, LA, Seattle, where they've cut they've cut their budget drastically. Who's going to suffer from that? It's going to be the citizens, because it's going to come back to bite them. And we hope that our city, in case with our city leaders and in the legislature, that they understand that instead of defunding, we should be defending the police. And we can deal with our issues that we have, but we need to be supported because if Chief Cost, if he had his budget cut 20-25%, it would be staggering. And I know he couldn't do a lot of the things that he does on a daily basis that keeps the city of Mesa safe, that you might not see every day, the different units. surveillance units, tactical units, those kinds of things, community-based units, school resource officers, those things that we believe make a difference are really going to cut into how police services are administered.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question, a real quick one. I'm from your two most favorite vacation spots now, Seattle and Portland.
Oh,
And I have a lot of friends and family up there, and talking to them, they're all over the place about
yeah.
what's going on. But I think to all of them generally agree that the whole issue has been lost as a result of mayors and city officials getting involved in the middle of something they know nothing how to control. And I'm just wondering, I mean, we don't do that with the fire department.
No.
The mayor's not out there directing the hoses. But Seattle's terrible. I have one nephew who's ready to quit the police department.
Yeah, I know.
And Portland, I got 3 kids that work down by the courthouse, and they say once you get 2 blocks away, it's not a big deal.
Right.
So, but it's the political people who've gotten in here and screwed this thing up a long time ago. So, well, I don't know. How do you get around that?
Well,
De-elect the people?
yeah, and I kind of agree. Like, during the protests in Portland, there was a big blowback.
Lost him.
David, I think you froze up. Your transmission.
Because Homeland Security agents, you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you're muted. You're muted.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Where was I?
Yeah, right there.
What was I talking about?
Well,
You just started
wait
talking
for-
about.
Oh yes. So they worked out an agreement with the city leaders that if Homeland Security left and the Oregon State Police came in, the protesters would stop. Well, they did for a couple days. Then it started back up again, and the Oregon State Police were getting hammered every night. Injured. They were having violent protests. Had a lot of officers that were injured. They would arrest these violent protesters, and then the prosecutors would not file charges on them. They refused to. And so Oregon State Police just got up and left and said, why were we risking our officers if you're not going to charge these individuals? And I don't blame the head of the Oregon State Police. I would have done the same thing. You're putting all, your, all this manpower in risk, and there's no repercussions for extreme violent behavior. So, and there's a lot of communities, and I think, this is my opinion, this isn't from the administration, right? I think that places like Seattle and Portland, Chicago to a degree, and New York, and I think there's a lot of national leaders, if they would discuss these violent protests and tell people to stop this. It's okay to protest, and law enforcement, we have no problem with protesters, but it just seems like a lot of our national leaders are silent on this topic, where you have violent riots every single night in cities, and our leaders are not saying anything about it. They just ignore it. I think it's sad, personally.
Well, David, these are complex times, and I sure
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time to share with us some of the information about what's going on. Thanks for all that you do, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, and when you guys all get back together as a group, please invite me back. And this is fine too, but I'd like to come see you all in person.
Sounds good.
Marshal Gonzales, on behalf of the club, as Tom said, we're very pleased you're here. You're a professional. We're all in good hands with you on the job. And I want to tell you, if you want to stay after for a moment or two, there may be a couple other questions, but I just want to conclude our meeting, and we'll stay in the room for anyone that's interested.
I can stick around.
Okay, wonderful. So just looking ahead, Next week, we're going to have Alice Cooper's Solid Rock Teen Center, speaker Randy Spencer. And the week following, we're dark because it's Labor Day. Our very own John Scott Williams will take the lead on the 16th of September. He's going to talk about Alexa and seniors. Later in the month, we're going to hear about Phoenix Gateway Airport. We're going to learn from
I don't know what it's called.
one of the most knowledgeable folks on the topic, I think, according to my friend Rich Curtis. We'll learn more at that point. Let's look forward to next week when Marty Whalen will talk for a few moments. He'll present a Rotary moment. So this is our 36,366th day as a Rotary Club. We've had 22 Zooms and we have one Arch Clump member. I hope to see you all next week. Look forward to speaking. And David, please stick around for any members that want to be in the room and chat with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody have questions?
I have a question for you. You may have touched on it, but how many deputies do you have in the state of Arizona?
We have offices. We have 4 offices in Arizona: Phoenix, Tucson, Yuma, and Flagstaff. Any place that you have a federal courthouse. And we have about 250 deputy marshals for the entire state. And we cover obviously the whole state. And like, for example, our Flagstaff office, based in Flagstaff, they cover the Navajo reservation in Mojave County. And when they go on out, they're gone all day long on a simple matter to arrest a fugitive or deal with something in the middle of a Navajo reservation. Also, sometimes we have to pick up somebody at the bottom of the Grand Canyon on the reservation down there. So that's interesting. We either go by mule or by helicopter. So some unique situations there, and also that our primary place, as I mentioned, is the private prison in the Florence area.